Saskatchewan?
I say there is, I understand now. If you're looking at it under the Emerald Oil Field decision, which the Supreme Court of Canada approved, if you want to organize plumbers under the construction provision or the Construction Act, you need to be Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local 179 of the United Association. That's the union.
Okay. So people who are not unionized therefore have to join that union?
That's at present, yes.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I agree with it for a number of policy reasons. The policy reasons being you end up with one bargaining round with one collective agreement, and if there's going to be a dispute, it's one dispute, and it applies over the entire industry. Every contractor who gets the collective agreement must use the same collective agreement terms, so when they're bidding with the same deck of cards as everybody else. If the situation were modified, where other unions were added, where they would also represent plumbers, as long as everybody gets the same collective agreement, I would think that all of the policy reasons are satisfied. If you have the plumbers bargaining one agreement and somebody else bargaining a significantly lesser agreement, I think you're undermining the registration agreement, and that is putting you back to where we were in 1968 before we had bargaining structures.
So when we talk about choices under the Constitution, as to which union they're going to join in the province of Saskatchewan.
That's correct. It's like a number of cases. If you work for the Public Service of Canada, you get them as a statutory bargaining agent. Here in Saskatchewan, if you work for the provincial government, you get them as a statutory bargaining agent. I mean, those cases have been litigated at the Supreme Court of Canada a couple of times. For employers being in a registered employers organization, it's Prud'homme Builders, it's advanced cutting and coring for employees. Certainly not unconstitutional, certainly not illegal, and certainly justified from a policy point of view.
Okay, so they don't have choice, but if this legislation passes through, they then have a choice.
If the legislation passes as it is, they will have a choice, and what you will see is the, I think, relatively quick disintegration of the bargaining structure that you have now. As it disintegrates, you will go into a period of, let's call it, instability.
So you think there'll be strikes? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. You know, I come from Alberta, right, where the clackers are thick, as it were. I forget who it was said fist fights in the camp and that sort of thing. Around bargaining time, that sort of stuff happens all the time. The people who work there understand clearly that when the clackers make a sweetheart deal with the employer, what people perceive as a sweetheart deal, it limits their ability to bargain what their services are worth.
So why is it in Saskatchewan then that only 20% of construction workers are unionized?
Why?
Yeah.
In 1984, 1982, when the Devine government tubed the first registration system, virtually every major contractor was stuck with the collective agreement, couldn't do anything with it, set up a spin-off. They got a spin-off. The spin-off went away. They started doing business with the spin-off. The unions couldn't really respond, so it was a case of employer choice as to whether they'd be unionized or not at that point. And succeeding incarnations of the law didn't really put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
And what do you think Humpty Dumpty would look like if you were back together again?
If they put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and if 80% of the construction industry was unionized again in Saskatchewan, you would have the highest labor rates in the country, higher than Alberta. You would have, and would continue to have, probably the best trained, or at least in the top two, of construction workers in the province. You would have the best security system for people's families that's found anywhere on the continent. And you would have a workforce with kids lined up around the block to say, sign me up, this is something I want to be in.
So in a nutshell, you do not want another union or another representative in the province to represent people in the trades.
Respectfully, I did not say that.
Oh,
What I said was, if somebody else is going to come in and represent people, and I believe in choice, choose whoever it is will represent you, but make certain there is one agreement so that you aren't getting choice based on lowest wage cost.
So, let's take that a step further into practice. We allow CLAC in, and the caveat is that members of CLAC have to have the same agreement as the trade union representing that workforce.
Sure.
So, basically, you would allow CLAC to exist if the standard was all of them had to have separate agreements that equal the existing trade unions in the province.
Yes.
And then there would be no instability, and we would have more employees in the trade industry, and we could move on with further development in our construction sector.
Short answer would be yes. I think I saw Mr. Vanderlaan on TV, the guy from the Progressive Contractors who used to be CLAC's national rep. He says he doesn't have a lot of people lined up to get there. You'd have another contractor, and that contractor would try and build a base of people. I believe they would still be fishing out of the same pool of people. I believe that they would build a following of people. Would they add a lot of people to the roster? We're really only talking about 3 companies here: Flint, Ledcor, and JV Driver, in whatever incarnation it is. You're not going to add a lot of people.
So when you said CLAC has sweetheart deals, does that mean that sometimes CLAC negotiates a higher wage
No.
For a trade?
No. I would say this unequivocally: CLAC does not have a higher wage for a trade anywhere on this continent.
Then why is it a sweetheart deal?
A sweetheart deal means a sucker's deal, a patsy's deal, you sold out.
Oh, so you think
A predator's deal.
CLAC sells out?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So what's the solution?
Either leave it alone. If you feel that you need to tinker around the edges and deal with the maintenance issue in some way, or deal with what seems to be an enormous issue here, which is the abandonment issue, deal with that. If you feel you have to tinker with the Registered Employers Organization and how it does business, then it's simple. If you looked at the acts in some of the other provinces, it's not unusual to have more than one union as part of the employee bargaining agency. Put the CLACers or CEP or anybody else who represents a significant number of people into that bargaining and have the bargaining system go from there.
It seems to me it's very protectionist.
Well, if you're going to have a system that requires a group of contractors, I mean, let's face it, the construction labor provisions are designed for unionized construction contractors and unions. And what you want to do is you want to take that and give it a good shake and let some other people come in here and partake. Let them come in and partake. Just give them the same deal. Why is that protectionist? The choice is for an employer to be union or non-union.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Schreimer. We're past our appointed hour of 4:15. Some very good question and answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Blakely, and thank you to the Canadian Building and Construction Trades Department.
More clients to come back. Okay.
We can always reapply for the next round of talks, I guess. With that, we will adjourn until Tuesday morning, the 23rd at 10 a.m.